everybody. Welcome to a Friday edition of Box Seats. I'm your host, Frank Holder. Of course, you guys know this show is the sports show where it meets comedy, and I got a couple of comedians who are going to come on because we talk about a whole lot of sports and everything else. First up is my man, Fig. Fig, how you doing today, brother? How's everything?
Yeah, man, everything is good, baby. TGIF.
Yeah, thank God it is Friday. Next up is my man, Mr. Rodney Perry. Rodney, brother, how you doing, brother? How's everything?
It's all good out here in these streets.
Yeah, you still out of the country or what?
Yeah, I'm in Vancouver, Canada right now. It's a beautiful day today.
There it is. There. And next up is one of my men, Mr. Amir Sealy. Amir, how you doing, brother? How's everything?
I'm good. Good to see everybody. Salute, gentlemen. It's Friday. Yeah. It's a holiday weekend, baby. Let's do it.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Let's make it happen.
Yeah. Amir, you want to donate to Rodney Perry? Frank and Fig and Talon did.
Sure.
Frank and Fig and Talon did not make any donation to Rodney Perry, so let me get on with the show. The first thing I always talk about.
Go ahead, Kobe.
First thing I talk about is always the COVID report. Something came out this morning from Madison Square Garden. They said that they're not going to allow any fans who are not vaccinated in the next series if the Knicks advance to the next round, which would be the second round. And what they're implementing, according to the NBA, it looks like that they're going to try to get all the other NBA teams to try to implement the same thing as everybody goes in. I just don't know how. I say this. I don't know how people are going to prove their vaccination and stuff. I don't understand how they're going to do that. But anyway, Fig, what's your thoughts on that? You go up first.
Well, first off, Frank, they give you a vaccine card. When you get vaccinated, they give you a card when you get your first shot. And then when you go back again, they sign off on it again. Look, man, at the end of the day, I mean, New York got hit very hard, when the COVID first hit. It was one of the hardest hit cities in the country. And it just makes a lot of sense that they would try their best to make sure that doesn't happen again, getting large crowds together that are not being as safe as they possibly can.
Rodney Perry, do you think that they'll be able to prove it? Because like Fig said, they got vaccination cards, but this is New York City. People fake everything. They fake Pumas. They fake Nikes. I'm sure they could fake vaccination cards to get into the Madison Square Garden. What's your thoughts? How they prove it?
Well, of course, New York is the kings of the knockoff. But I think everybody is trying to stay well, and I would hope people wouldn't be faking these vaccination cards, although there are fake cards already out on the street. So the reality is it could happen, but I hate that they're using the vaccine this way. Although all of us talked about it and saw it coming down the pipe, but when you start to weaponize the vaccine, and the reality is it doesn't stop you from anything. It just stops you from getting as sick. So you can still get COVID with the vaccine. So because of that, man, I mean, the good thing for New York is they probably don't have to worry about being there.
Right. Man, what you think?
To all the points that have been made earlier, one of the things that I think we have to take into consideration, especially here in New York City, they just opened the city back up today, actually. So they officially let the floodgates open, and they're allowing us to try to act like a city again. But with that having been said, I think we just have to do our due diligence, and you got to take whatever precautions you think is necessary so that you can stay healthy. I don't think that you can group vaccinate or put people in any kind of position where you tell them what they can and cannot do, because the reality of it all is some people actually are, for taking the vaccination, and obviously some people are against it. So you have to allow people to do whatever's going to work for them, and then do your due diligence for yourself.
Right. Now, the next topic I want to bring up, I don't want to talk too much about the game, but I want to talk about what Chris Paul said this morning. Chris Paul has an issue with the NBA. He is filing a grievance with the NBA over the refs because he says, according to his calculations, the referee Scott Foster has been a referee, and every single time he's ref, Chris Paul has lost 11 straight games, covering over 4 teams he's played on. And he says this Scott Foster has an issue with him because he's got assessed over 5 technical fouls from this same official. So I'm going to ask you, Fig, is the officiating a problem with Chris Paul, or is this all up in his mind because he lost the game last night? What you think?
Well, listen, when you have a pattern of something happening, then you put 2 and 2 together. It usually is not 5. If this is a ref that is this seems to happen to a particular player all the time, then I mean, look, the referees are human too, and if you talk to them a different way and they feel that they have something against you, then they're going to use their personal feelings and they're going to referee you differently than they do everyone else. I would imagine at some point in Chris Paul's career, he got under this ref's skin, and this ref just decided that he was not going to take any nonsense from Chris Paul, and he's quite possibly officiating him differently than he does everyone else.
All right, Rodney Perry, what's your take on this? Because as I said, it's 11 straight losses in a row and over 5 technical fouls from this one ref against Chris Paul.
I'm sure if you look at any ref, you could probably find similar things with different athletes. I watched the game last night, and Chris Paul be doing some dirty little stuff out there, man. Like everywhere he do little push-offs and grabs, and Chris, you can't be Chris Paul height in the NBA and not be a little grimy. And so and so Chris Paul is not. I mean, we all heard for years that a lot of people in the NBA don't like Chris Paul. Well, Chris Paul is a grimy little dude, and he's tough, and so is he right? Maybe, but at the same time, it's like, come on, Chris Paul, calm down.
All right, okay. Amir, what's your take on this? Because, like I said, Chris Paul, it's unusual for a player to have to make account of an official who noticed that he lost 11 straight games as the official officiating the game. That's very unusual. What's your thoughts on this?
It's funny to a point that Rodney just made. Chris Paul obviously is one of the smaller guards in the grand scheme of things, and he's always been one of the tougher guards. He plays with a chip on the shoulder. He always plays with an edge, and he has since he got into the league. What I find interesting about bringing it up under these circumstances, you're telling me that it's been 11 straight losses. Why didn't you bring this up after loss number 5? Or why didn't you bring this up after loss number 3 or something like that? You know what I mean? You wait until you get into this whole, supposedly long drawn out thing. And now you're saying, you noticed that there's a pattern. 5 games ago, you should have noticed there was a pattern. 6 games ago, you should have noticed there was a pattern. And you should have brought it to somebody's attention then, technically, to me, if that's what you really felt. Now, we're in the playoffs and you're doing everything you can, obviously, to get an edge, as all the players are. But that's also part of the game. There's people playing with one another's, mental. There's little things like Rodney just said, pulling jerseys and, all kind of interesting things that players do. It's all, unfortunately, a part of the game. So either we're going to play the game and enjoy it like it's supposed to, or we're not. But they have to make that decision.
Well, and just to give a little rebuttal with you, when Chris Paul was playing with Houston, he singled out Scott Foster. He did, and James Harden did. And James Harden said that there's an issue that Scott Foster definitely has with Chris Paul. He said that way back when he was with Houston, which was almost 3 years ago. So there's something there. And I'm just trying to figure out, will the NBA look at this, or will they just be like, listen, y'all, just play ball? You know what I mean? And we all know, let's be honest, whether the NBA handles it or not, the NBA has an issue with their officials because they've been caught cheating. You know what I mean? Like, that has to be something up there too. Go ahead, Rodney. What you want to say?
No, I want to say that the good thing about Chris Paul being a player rep for the Players Association is he knows how to document this stuff. Right. And so I'm sure he's got a bigger plan at work. And they might be looking at the grander scheme of the referees, and so this might be the beginning of something even bigger.
Right, yes. And that's why I brought it up, because at the end of the day, what was it, 8 years ago? There was a referee who got caught cheating. So
Yes.
maybe he's trying to show that there's a pattern where certain group officials and certain group of official crews, you know what I mean? Because you know they travel in crews, and he's saying that crew that's been officiating with him, he's no matter where they go, from the time he was with Houston, he has not won a game. You know what I'm saying? Hey, what's your rebuttal on that?
You know what? It like I said, look, let me just try it this way. If it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, chances are it's a duck. But here's the thing, though. In the referee's defense, Chris Paul is one of those players that I don't want to call him dirty, but he sure is scrappy. And he gets away with a lot of stuff. Chris Paul's the type of player that if he's on your team, you love him. If he's on another team, you hate him. You know what I mean? He's that type of player. So only thing I know is 11 straight losses is not a coincidence. There's a couple of coincidences in there. Like Amir said, if he would have said something at 5 games, and you say, Chris, 5. You get to 11. Now what you have is a preponderance of evidence against this particular official, and it seems to have a little validity.
That's what all I'm saying is, listen, win or lose and everything else, this don't look good for the NBA, especially if he's filing a grievance against the league. It don't look good because it's getting ready to make all the papers. I just read this not even an hour ago, so it just dropped. It's going to make all the papers, going to make all the headline news today because we all know Chris Paul is the head of the NBA Players Association.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But it's like Amir said, this is a bad timing when you get your ass whooped.
Right.
All of a sudden.
Right. Right. It also proves his case, though. It also proves his case.
2-1.
We're getting beat by LeBron James, though.
2-1. I mean, listen, it's still a lot of game left. 2-1.
Yeah.
That's not I mean, you know, if it was 3-0, you'd be like,
hold on. We ain't getting time to talk about that. We ain't say that. We can talk about that yet.
We'll get there. All right, let's move on. The next thing happened last night. I don't know if you guys were watching the game, right? Ja Morant's family put up something last night. I saw it when it dropped live that the dad had dropped basically a comment on his social media. He was saying not only did stuff happen in Boston, he said, listen, stuff is happening while I'm out here in Utah too. He said, I got heckled by 3 separate fans. I got called separate names and everything else. Meanwhile, he had just posted that on social media that he was sitting down with some fans, toasting beers, having a great conversation with a fan who was sitting right next to him. Not even 15 minutes after that, he got heckled by a couple of other fans, calling him names, nigga, all kinds of different kinds of names at the game. You know what I mean? So racism seems to not only be in Boston, it seems to be everywhere in the league. But Fig, the league needs to address this immediately instead of just slap on the wrist. They need to revoke, in my opinion, and start to press charges to not only just take away the fans. Okay, you took my season tickets away. Okay, but you need to start pressing charges of some sort to me. You know what I mean? If you start doing something detrimental to other people in the band, because you can't do that on the street. What's your thought?
Right. I don't know how you legislate words. No matter where you are, whether it's it's not a work environment or anything like this. This is a social environment. It's a athletic event and what have you. But when the fans start to do things where they're physically accosting people, whether they be players or just other fans that are attending the game, then it needs to be more than just banning you from the stadium because what happened to Trae Young and Russell Westbrook, to me, is an assault, and you need to pay for an assault, whether you're in a stadium or whether you're out on the street. Like some of the players said, you would have never did this to them, in a one-on-one setting out in the street. So why should you be able to get away with it in a stadium? It's almost like saying, if I'm in a stadium, I could beat somebody up, and all they're gonna do is ban me from the stadium. Well, what happened to the other charges? Because that's an assault. You shouldn't be able to do it. I think this racism has begun to raise its head. And somebody said something earlier today, Frank, about how the Black Lives Matter movement, when it began, there were no fans in the stadium. And now that they're coming back, it seems like all of the stuff that they wanted to do or all the things that they wanted to come against some of these players for protesting and stuff like that. It seems to be coming out now that they're allowing fans back into the stadium, and it's not a good look for the NBA. It just isn't.
Rodney Perry, I'm gonna throw the question to you, and I'm gonna say this: if some people like me have been sitting in the stands and I don't know, I don't even know if I can hold my whole thing together, because I might want to snap, crackle, and pop and piss off and snap somebody off the side of their head. You know what I mean? Like, because bro, some of the stuff that these players are taking, man, it's just, you know, it's ridiculous. You know, what's your thoughts on this?
I mean, well, this stuff is not new. I mean, people have been saying wild stuff from the stands many years. We saw what happened in Detroit many years ago. I mean, that all started with a fan. Here goes. This is America. We do have freedom of speech, but this is what we don't have: freedom of consequences. We need to let somebody's ass get whooped.
One time. Yeah.
One good ass whooping to fix all of this. So wait a minute, y'all gonna let these big giant human beings come up here and whoop our ass? You know what, Mr. Westbrook, I apologize.
You know the funny thing is, that's exactly how you handle it. You walk up slow while Russell Westbrook is wailing on somebody's ass, and you walk up slow. You handle it like that's how you handle it. Like, I agree with that, Rodney Perry. Amir, what you think?
You know, to both points made by Rodney and Fig, you know, absolutely spot on. I think the real challenge here is, and you know, we talk about it because you guys have talked about it in the past in black and white. We're looking at fans who, fortunately or unfortunately, are really just mad at young black African Americans who are millionaires a couple of times over, just depending on, you know, what your salary is and, you know, what team you play for or whatever. And the frustration really stems from that. I'm mad. I paid my ticket. I came to the game. All that's, you know, fair. But I'm really mad because, in all fairness, you make quadruple my salary. The only thing that I could do, unfortunately, in my defense, is say specific things that I think will get under your skin and, you know, and piss you off. And that's really all I have. My life is miserable as it stands, so that's the best I got. And it's unfortunate that, to your point, the NBA can't definitively find a way to, you know, find some medium, you know, where the players are safe and obviously the fans are safe as well. So yeah. I hope that they can find some common ground.
No, when I want to interject, man, that's like, listen, I'm all for the heckling. You know what I mean? Or the other team, the other players and stuff like that. I'm for the heckling because that's stuff that we did in the park when we were playing ball. I mean, at least in New York City where I grew up, we heckle each other in the park. It's trash talk. It's heckling. The fans are getting at you. You garbage. Your game is this and that and stuff. But when it comes to physically touching, when this guy spit at or spit on another player, when you throw your beverage onto a player or dump popcorn on their head, that's an assault. That needs to be, you need to be arrested and taken out in handcuffs, not just escorted out. When you touch people, when you physically touch them, there needs to be severe consequences for that, because what happens, like Rodney said, you cross the line, these guys get to you. Now it becomes a whole big thing, lawsuit and everything for the NBA. And that's what we don't want. We don't want to mess up the entertainment for the fans, but the fans can't attack other fans and other players. That needs to stop immediately.
And maybe on the grander scheme, they're trying to provoke these guys to get them thrown out the game.
Yeah,
that's
funny you brought
that up. It's funny you brought that up too, Rodney Perry, because check this out. I wanted to bring this next point up. There was a fan in 2019 who had an incident with Russell Westbrook. He sued the NBA and Russell Westbrook for $100 million. And of course, the judge just ruled on it yesterday afternoon, and said that whole case has to be thrown out because of the situation, whereas the heckling was the issue. You know what I mean? So heckling is allowed, everything else. But if you say something to a player and then you antagonize the player, the judge basically stated that if you are throwing something and saying something to the player has the right and can respond accordingly. So that case got thrown out. But the fact of the matter is, let's not overlook the fact that the fan sitting in the seats tried to sue an NBA player playing a game for $100 million. And file that lawsuit. That's
Right.
all we look at. So,
And a lot of times, look, Frank, you know what that is glorified ambulance chasing. You know what I mean? You fake a car accident or injury or stuff like that in order to get money. Well, I mean, everybody on the court, generally a multi-millionaire. So if you could get them to do something to you, you know, you should do it to Mike Tyson all the time. Hey, Mike, your mother, wow, oh, $10 million, please.
yeah,
You know what I mean? It's like ambulance chasing with these multi-millionaires.
yeah, but that's not overlook the fact, meaning that if the judge had not thrown that case out, if the judge hadn't thrown that case out, can you imagine the amount of lawsuits that'd be filed right now with fans sitting in the stadium? Hey, you know, this player did this to me, or he threw the ball at me, you know, all kinds of different things, man. And the $100 million, because now you're suing the team, you're suing the player, and you're suing the league. You know what I mean? That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. Let's get on to the next thing. This is another big hot topic. Ex-Oakland Athletic and now Minnesota Twin star named Josh Donaldson got really pissed off yesterday during the baseball game. He said there was a pitcher who he caught cheating, and he was going back and forth during a game while they were playing the game. And he said, you know what, if I keep getting pressed, I'm going to release a catalog of pitchers who I've known who are pitching right now in the league who are cheating. Now, of course, this morning, Major League Baseball wants him to release that catalog because he's saying that pitchers are pitching. They got substances on their hat. They got substances in their glove. They got, again, nothing new to baseball, but it could be like the same thing as when my man, I forgot the guy's name, who released that whole catalog of people who was taking steroids. It could be that whole thing all over again. You know, we could be going through that all over again. Fig, what's your thought about, you know, Josh Donaldson? Should he release the list of Major League Baseball pitchers pitching who are cheating? What do you think?
Man, listen, you know, in baseball, it's like that stuff goes on. It's like whistleblowing is like allowed in baseball because they have baseball, like we talked about before, has all of these unwritten rules and things you can do, things you can't do. You know what I mean? But there's no really rule against it. It's just like an unwritten law. So, I mean, if you find out that a guy's cheating and he's getting an unfair advantage, you know what I mean? And you say something about it, then it just seems like it's a part of baseball. But you know what? Here's a way to get around it. You know, in boxing, before the guy goes in the ring and before he goes to a fight, you check his glove, you check his hand wrap to make sure that there's nothing. You give him a blood test to make sure that they're not taking any illegal substances or steroids or anything like that. This would be very simple in a baseball game to simply, before a pitcher takes the mound, look at his hat and look at his glove. How long would that take to be able to stop this particular thing from going on from Major League Baseball pitchers? Look at the hat, look at the glove. If you find no substance on it, they could go out there and pitch. It'd take 2 seconds.
Rodney Perry, what's your thoughts? You think the whistleblower should blow the whistle on the pitchers cheating?
I mean, you know, snitches get stitches, man. I like the idea of checking the hats and gloves, but are you going to do it every inning? Are you going to stop down every inning and do that? Baseball is slow enough as it is. Right. I mean, look, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying to win. Okay. Mm-hmm. Baseball is ripe with cheaters. They've been oiling their gloves and hats for 100 years. I played Little League Baseball. They taught us how to do it. So that's kind of par for the course. I got a catalog of people I think is cheating. You know, him and Chris Paul making the same list.
Yeah, let's be honest, they do. But I forgot what's the name of that baseball player. Is Jose something? He
Canseco?
Jose Canseco. He's the one who blew the whistle on all the guys who were taking steroids, and he was the first one saying, "I'm taking steroids. I'm doing it." This could be almost the exact same type of thing. Whereas
steroids saved baseball.
Yeah, it did. It brought a lot of attention to baseball too. Amir, what's your thoughts on this? Do you think this guy should blow the whistle on the pitchers who he thinks is cheating?
No, look, bro, it is what it is. Like Rodney said, it's a part of baseball. Certain things are just a part of the culture. They're a part of what goes on. Now, do we think it's fair? Obviously, no. But if you're going to sit there and you're going to blow the whistle, then you got to blow the whistle on every single solitary retarded thing that you see in baseball. So now the guys who, watching the dudes give the signs, I got a catalog of guys, giving bad signs. Like, it just opens the door for a whole bunch of frivolous silliness in terms of making baseball even less exciting than it is to some people.
Right.
For those people who enjoy baseball, and we got to take it back to when people just listen to it on the radio. Hell with watching it on TV, but just listen to it on the radio. You got a sense of the game. You just went along with the flow of it. And when your team came out on the winning end of it, you were happy. That was the end of it.
Yeah,
just let baseball be.
And you know what? I just thought of something, man. If you stop the pitchers from cheating, maybe there would be more scoring and baseball would be more exciting.
Maybe. I mean, at the end of the day, the pitching is better and hitting is down. Who knows? I mean, who knows?
It's been more no hitters this year than ever. So
right.
Did they just start cheating again?
Right. Now, let me bring up this next point because I want to talk about this, and then I want to start covering the games before we do top dogs. Naomi Osaka came up this morning, and she said she's skipping a news conference, and she doesn't know when she's going to do another news conference. And she said, you know what? I'll take the fines. Fines is $20,000. I'll take the fines. Meanwhile, let's not forget, last year she made $55 million in one calendar year. She is the highest paid woman tennis player. So she said, I'll take every fine you give to me. And the French Open officials want her to do that. Now, here's what she's citing. She's saying that it's a mental health issue for her. She said it's really affecting her mental health and her playing by her being bombarded with all these ridiculous questions at these conferences. And she doesn't want to do them anymore. That's her stance, and that's what she's saying. And she's trying to bring in a physical, mental type of ability to that. And she's also getting ready to have basically a doctor's note. She's getting ready to have several doctors speak up for her and say that it could be a mental health issue for her. If this happens, if this passes, it could go past all sports. You agree with this? Disagree with this? What's your thoughts on mental health being a real issue in sports, Fig? What's your thoughts?
Well, not only is Naomi Osaka fine, she also rich. I'm like, good Lord, girl. Hey, listen, man. This is a funny time, Frank. It really is. There's a lot of pressure on people, and I think a lot of people are not really even aware of the amount of pressure that's on them. Athletes that have to perform at a high level, answer questions, play the game, social unrest, racism, verbal abuse. It's just a lot to take in, and everybody handles it differently. So we really don't know what this young lady is going through. She's a young woman, biracial, playing in a sport that was before Serena and Venus. And we know they had Arthur Ashes and a few other people. It's a predominantly white sport, and those are the gatekeepers. So you never really know what it is that she's talking about when she said it's a mental health issue. And then how do you regulate that? How do you say, oh no, it's not a mental health issue or whatever? Look at what they did to Beast Mode. They was finding him all the time because he didn't want to speak to the press and Kyrie Irving. I'm just here so I don't get fined. And they still fined him because that's what he said. So I don't know. There's a lot to unravel here.
Rodney Perry, I'm going to throw that same question to you. I'm going to throw a little caveat to that and say, if Naomi ends up getting this pass with a doctor's note, I think it literally could change press conferences in sports as we know it. What's your thoughts on this, Rodney Perry?
I mean, that definitely sets a precedent. If this works out for her, I don't think it will. I think that she can pay her way out of it, like you say, with this $20,000 per interview. But I mean, why do that? Like, this is the thing: you're an athlete. Your brain is supposed to be like a steel trap, so you can't allow nothing to get in your head like that. And so, she's young. She's 23 years old. She's making a boatload of money. But at the same time, that's just part of it, man. You NBA, you got to sit with the press. Now, can the players or the people like Naomi and LeBron James and beast mode? Can they go, okay, we only are going to do 5 questions, and we want to know what it is. You can add some layers to it that give you some more leeway about what they're going to ask.
I'm gonna disagree with you only on one point, Rodney Perry, and this is because if a doctor writes a note to you and everything else, I think you could take this to court and literally win your court case by not having them force you to do that, because you got basically a doctor's note. You know what I mean? I understand everything you're saying. I agree with, except for the fact being that I think if she wins and she gets a mental health thing, side note, I think she wins that, man.
Then the doctor himself comes under scrutiny. Then you got to go, who the hell is this doctor to tell me that you can't talk for 5 minutes?
He might, but there are people who right now who get doctor's notes to get out of certain things right now as we speak, from jobs to doing all kinds of things, and mental health is.
I get it.
Yeah, mental health is a serious issue, just like it is a physical. Something happening to you physically. Mental is the same thing too. Amir, what's your thoughts on this?
You know what is interesting? As I've been watching, this particular young lady ascend to her greatness in her sport. If you watch the interviews with her, she doesn't appear to be a person who likes to speak in general. Even, with the title she's won, she kind of is like, thank you, and, kind of waves, and, she's ready to, move on to whatever, else she has to deal with. To Rodney and to Fig's points, I think that we, again, I stated this before, we have to look at generational stuff. This new generation is more about technology than they are about one-on-one or mano-a-mano or whatever, whatever terminology you want to put it in. They didn't come up in a specific mind frame and mindset like we have. So this new generation, because they can talk well through text and through emails and things like that. You ever be around these kids? They don't do so well when they have to speak one-on-one. Like that's a real issue for them. So be some validity to her having some sort of anxiety. Thank you, Rodney. Where that's concerned. Now, to what extent or what level, none of us can possibly know, because we grew up in a generation where we talk. Right. Two of the 3 gentlemen on here are comedians. They talk, so they used to, give and take. That's not what she does. She goes, she practices. Her coach tells her, hey, work on this, work on that. She does it. She gets to the game. She goes against her opponent. I'm out here to do what I'm supposed to do, and that's it. I don't have a lot of time where I actually do talking, because that's not even a focus of mine, or even something that I try to, ingratiate as part of my, development. To Rodney's point, players of yesteryear, we know they had to, like you said, you get fined, this, that, the third. Or the few players who have said, I'll just take the fine. I'm gonna sit here and do this.
Yeah, brother.
I don't speak well. It is what it is. So I can't be mad at her. That's my personal thing, is I can't be mad at her. We have to wait and see how this plays out.
Excellent points, Amir. Excellent points. I got to move on, because I want to get into the NBA games and everything else, especially before we get ready to do Top Dogs. We got to do the Lakers versus the Suns recap. We also got to do the recap of the Bucks game. We got a couple of recaps we got to talk about first. So, Fig, I'm gonna throw it to you and say this: the Lakers played the Suns last night. What's your thoughts? What was your thought after you watched the game?
You can see it's getting to the point where it's starting to look like playoff basketball. A little contentious, a lot of emotion in the game, some physicality. Going back to an old point what Chris Paul made, one of the things that I saw during the game is you have to referee a player like LeBron James a little differently. Sort of like you do Shaq, because he's such a physical specimen. But I'm noticing that they allow some of the players on the Lakers to play a little more physical than they do some of the other teams. And that may be what Chris Paul was alluding to. Some of the aggression, a lot of the Phoenix Suns ended up, like a couple of them ended up getting ejected out of the game. And last point, it seems like Dennis Schroeder has graduated from his acting class, because he seems to have that rolled down. That, I thought that was a thing that only LeBron James knew how to do. Like when you get fouled, you hit the ground and then you roll. He got that rolling thing down to a science because I saw it yesterday. At first, I thought it was LeBron James. Like, oh, no, that's Dennis Schroeder. That rolling thing is a Lakers staple. And if we see any other teams try and do that, I think the Lakers have they should be able to sue the other team for taking their role away because that is definitely a Lakers thing, the role.
Okay, the Lakers roll. Rodney Perry, what's your thoughts? What's your thoughts on the recap of the game last night?
What is Fig talking about? I'm not gonna let Fig pull me down like Meyer. He's trying to pull me down. It was a good game, man. The Phoenix Suns are a really good team. Chris Paul toughing it out, bad shoulder. I mean, the guy's good. Y'all have really schooled me on this Devin Booker kid, but here goes. And let's not even talk about DeAndre Ayton.
Right.
DeAndre Ayton been balling. Jay Crowder been balling. Right? But the length of the Lakers is giving them problems. And you can admit it, when the Lakers go big, they don't have no answer for it, and they coach have not adjusted. So they should be going smaller, but I say they need to sit Chris Paul, bring in that other young boy. What's that boy name?
The left-handed kid. I know you're speaking of what's the guard? Yes.
Payne. They need to bring in Payne, let Payne run that team, let Devin Booker take control, Payne and Booker, and let them guys just go, run. Because the Lakers can't keep up with their speed. But they allow the Lakers to they play the Lakers game and they'll get their ass tore up 2 more times if they do that.
I'll agree with one thing what Rodney Perry saying. Actually, I agree with everything Rodney Perry said. And I'll even add one on thing on top of that. They're playing into what the Lakers want them to play. You cannot, Roddy got it dead on. If the Phoenix won all those games by running the ball, not by stop set, they run all their games, and now all of a sudden they play into the Lakers. They're getting blinded by the lights. Playoff basketball is different, bro. It's different. Amir, what's your thoughts?
I think, again, all of you guys, nailed everything. I think, the biggest thing, though, or, one of the other things, and we take this into consideration, but we don't. You're also looking at the defending champions with the Lakers as a whole, but there were specific players on that team who were part of that championship run last year. Those gentlemen absolutely know how to win and what it takes to win. Phoenix is a team on the rise, which means they're learning how to win. There is a difference in knowing how to win and learning how to win. And what we're experiencing when you're watching some of the games as they go forward is teams that already know how to win are utilizing what they already know works, and they're putting it on front stage for us to see, understand, and digest. To Rodney's point, Phoenix hasn't made an adjustment that would offset that in their favor. So as long as, the Lakers are allowed to utilize what they already know works, which is LeBron and AD's, basketball IQ and how those guys move and what they know how to do, then Phoenix is in trouble. So it's up to the coaching staff for the Phoenix Suns to figure that out and see if they can counter. And if not, then we're looking at this thing being over.
I thought they were going to miss Danny Green and Rajon Rondo this series. Right now, they're not. They're playing big, and if they don't adjust, they're going to be in trouble. And I'm going to lose my $20, Rodney. I'm going to lose my $20.
Hey, listen, hey, Frank, you know what? The funny thing about it is, like Amir said, what Rodney said, he's absolutely right. The Phoenix Suns don't have the size to match up the Lakers in a slow half-court game. So Monty Williams needs to make that adjustment. I would sit Chris Paul because he's injured and he's not effective on the basketball court, although he is a floor general. But I don't care what happens. I would say run the ball until DeAndre Ayton and LeBron James pass out. I would run from the first whistle to the last whistle. I would be in full out sprint and just see if these guys coming off of injuries can hang with us, because the Phoenix Suns are a bunch of young boys.
Yeah.
Run.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. I want to talk about the next game too, because before we do top dogs, Milwaukee played the Heat last night too, man. And Milwaukee looked like a completely different team than they looked like last year. It didn't even look like the same team. I don't think the Heat was ready for what they ran into. But I'm gonna throw it to you, Fig, first. We gotta keep this kind of short. But the addition of PJ Tucker, Drew Holiday, and Chris Middleton also staying on the team. Those additions on that team make Milwaukee look like the favorite, or at least to put up some kind of difference to come out of the East with Brooklyn. I just think everybody's overlooking. Everybody's overlooking Milwaukee. Everybody's overlooking Milwaukee. They're playing thorough basketball. Fig, what's your thoughts?
I think you're absolutely right. You hit the nail on the head. Middleton is looking great. Lopez is playing very good ball. DiVincenzo, he plays defense, outside shooter. That kid Forbes has emerged as a threat from the outside. I think the first game he must have dropped about 6 in a row or something like he was literally on fire. Here it is. The Milwaukee Bucks are what we call a well-balanced team. They have size, they have speed, they can shoot from the inside and the outside, and I think Miami is in trouble. I think it's a sweep.
Rodney Perry, I'm going to throw it to you, and I'm going to say this. I think the best addition any team got this year from one particular player has to be PJ Tucker joining the Milwaukee Bucks, has to be the best team addition from any team that got any player in the entire NBA season this year. That's what I think. Rodney Perry, what's your thoughts on the Milwaukee Bucks Heat series?
That's a fair statement, but rather than look at the Bucks, I'll look at the Heat. The Heat last year, they were in the bubble. They were super scrappy. They rose to the occasion. I don't know if they have nothing left in the tank, man. I mean, when you look at these guys, they look lethargic. They look like they want to go. They look like they want to go home.
Right.
You ever look at a man's eyes and they look like, I want to go home.
Yeah, the
Celtics.
Like
every single day. When this game gonna be over, man, I want to go home.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry to see that because they're so scrappy. But sometimes your opponent's just better, man. Milwaukee is a better all-around, top-to-bottom team from the big man down to the little man, and they're kicking their butts.
Yeah. Amir, I'm gonna throw it to you and say this. I ain't never seen the Heat miss so many shots. I wish they missed all them shots last year in the Eastern Conference Finals. We would have went to the finals, but they missed a whole bunch of shots last night. And PJ Tucker and Drew Holiday literally, man, they just bent them over and just kept, bap. I mean, what's your thoughts?
Like you said, first of all, the addition of those two gentlemen to a team that, has been, again, trying to get over the hump. Obviously, we see how much of a great addition those two gentlemen are. So we have to, take that off the table. But to something that Rodney just said, and I alluded to this the other day, the spiritual and team leader for the Heat, which is our boy, he just doesn't look like himself. He's out there, he's playing, he's doing a lot of, different things as he always does, but he's another guy who plays with an edge. And I just don't see that edge in him this year. And to me, as long as he's not showing that, the rest of the team can't show it. I think the rest of the team members for the Heat are, great individual players, so forth and so on, but they need that one alpha dude who goes out there, and because he punches people in the face, they punch people in the face. To the Milwaukee Bucks credit, I think Giannis is, again, figuring things out, and he keeps, finding ways to not only elevate his game, but now he's got some pieces and some players around him who he doesn't have to actually motivate them. They seem to be motivated on their own. So I think that it's a great combination,
Great, another great statement, Amir. All right, y'all. Now it's time to get ready to jump into the top dogs. I'm kind of interested to see what Fig he pulls off for his top dogs of the week this week and see whether or not I agree or disagree. And what
Don't let Fig affect your top dogs.
I'm not, man. Listen.
No, but I'm saying that just to see if it does affect his top dog. Right, Rodney, you stay out of it, man. I'm mad at you right now because I look like I'm owing you $20. So you mind the business.
Yeah, me too. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go with the top dogs of the week. I'm gonna start it off and throw a monkey wrench in Frank's Kool-Aid here, starting off with the first one. Ladies and gentlemen, 5 top dogs of the week. Number 1 on my list. I got to give it to the old dude. Let's give it to the AARP dude. Mr. Phil Mickelson became the first oldest player to win a major championship at 50 years old, winning by 1 stroke, 1 over par, a major championship at 50 years old. Let's give it to my boy Phil Mickelson, man. He put it down, man. Put it down. Next on my list, I got to give it to my man, Mr. Luka Doncic. Oh my God, he's been in his bag, taking Dallas all the way, man. 39 points, 7 rebounds, 7 assists, leading the Dallas Mavericks over the LA Clippers to go up 2-0, 127 to 121. Cool Hand Luke was in his bag. Third on my list, I got to give it to my homeboy, Mr. Derrick Rose, putting on the show, bringing the New York Knicks back, tying up the series 1-1, dropping 26 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists off the bench, giving it to my man, Derrick Rose, 101 to 92 over the Atlanta Hawks. Number 4 on the list, ladies and gentlemen, another European. Got to give it to my man, the Joker, Nikola Jokic, 36 points, 11 rebounds, 5 assists, leading the Nuggets over the Timberwolves 120 to 115. And you know they got Dame time over there. Last but not least, ladies and gentlemen, man, I watched this dude, man, come back from an injury and just do absolute damage. Let's give it to my man, Mr. Anthony Davis, AD himself, for the Los Angeles Lakers, dropping 34 points, snatching 11 rebounds, 0 assists, leading the Lakers over the Suns 109 to 95 for a 2-1 lead in the first round of the playoffs. Mr. AD himself. That's my 5 top dogs of the week. What's yours?
Okay. Rodney, what do you think about his top dogs?
I'm not mad at that. I like the Mickelson. I like Mickelson.
I'm not mad at him. At first, I was going to go like this.
I'm not a big fan of that Derrick Rose pick, but he has been balling, and I love the AD pick, but LeBron can't get no top dog love.
No. AD, hey, listen,
he ain't do nothing.
AD had better stats than LeBron.
All I was gonna say was, you know, that NHL is in the playoffs. You know what I mean? There was a goalie who got a shutout the other night, and we did have a pitcher last night who played for Oakland who had 7 shutout innings. You know what I mean? But
Hey, listen, man,
it's the NBA playoffs, so we're going like the top dogs.
Hold on. Do you see the formula here? The formula is playoffs and championships. Phil Mickelson got a championship.
That's why
in the playoffs.
That's why I ain't mad at you. That's why I ain't mad at you. Like I can't even dispute the play because every single one you got here was playoffs. But NHL's in the playoffs too, Fake.
Are they really?
Yeah, they're in the playoffs.
I'm a black man from Brooklyn, man. I don't know much about hockey. I'm sorry, man.
I'm
from Vancouver, where Rodney is, up there in Canada. I'd have found somebody.
I did watch hockey for like 30 minutes last night.
Yeah. Hey, can somebody please give Fig a memo, let him know that we're doing a sports show and not to tell the world he don't know a sport? I just want to know that. Just to slide that memo.
That's true. In any sports, you don't see Stephen A. Smith talk about no damn hockey.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. That's what I'm talking about the other day. Yeah, you do. But you know what? I can't even dispute that. Anything I can't dispute it. But there's some games tonight. Okay, there's some big games happening tonight. The Clippers are in trouble. I think the Clippers are in trouble. So, Fig, I'm gonna ask you this: if the Clippers lose this series, what do you think is gonna happen? I'm gonna say my 2 things. If I'm gonna throw it to you guys, I think Kawhi's not coming back. And I think Tyronn Lue's gonna get fired. That's my 2 things gonna happen if the Clippers implode this year. What you think is the 2 big things gonna happen if the Clippers lose this series? Fig, you go first.
I think if the Clippers lose this series, I don't think Kawhi Leonard resigns. I think he leaves. I don't know about them firing Ty Lue because I'm like, who else you gonna get? You fired Doc, you fired Ty Lue. At some point, it's not the coach. At some point, it's the players. I think maybe they trade Paul George or something crazy like that. But I really don't think that Kawhi will resign. That's my biggest one.
Rodney Perry, you got 30 seconds. Please tell me what you think.
Ty Lue is gonna be fine. The Clippers malfunctioned last year, and they have malfunctioned again. I guess nobody's gonna be getting a haircut except Fig.
Man, what's your 30 seconds?
Hey, look, I think the Clippers probably will implode, but I think the biggest thing that they're going to take away from this is probably going to be Paul George and trying to figure out, what to do with him. I don't think the Kawhi piece is a problem, nor do I think Ty Lue. I think the real issue is Paul George, and I think we spoke about that yesterday. I think it's just the playoffs is a different animal for him, and I'm not saying he's not playing well. I'm just saying he still hasn't elevated his game to a level that we'd be like, okay, we see he's ready.
Well, they can't get rid of. They can't let Kawhi walk and then trade out Paul George. They got to keep one of those two. Anyway, y'all, that's the show. I got to think.
Hold on, Frank. Before we go, can we get 3 more minutes?
3 more minutes.
Three more minutes.
Go ahead.
All right, we got 3 more minutes. I just hit my man. He's about to hit the line. He's about to call in, and you catch him on the one of the Planet Cup boys. He's about to hit the line. Is he in there yet?
I don't see nobody. All
right. I just sent him a thing.
Okay. Should I wait? You want me to continue to wait?
Well, we can't just sit here and not say shit.
I didn't say that.
Hey, listen. Hey, let me tell you this. You know what I think the biggest takeaway from this thing is that Kawhi, although he's a great player, he hasn't emerged as a leader of a team. I don't think Kawhi could be your number one. That's the honest truth from what I'm seeing. Paul George is definitely a Batman, but you think about Kawhi when he was successful.
Paul George is not a number one either.
No, I'm not saying Paul George is number one.
He wanted to join the show real fast. We got 60 seconds. So, Rodney, you want Harry to join the show, Rodney? Why? Why you want Harry to join? What's he going to help?
Goodsby, we talking sports. We talking about the Lakers. Who you see winning the championship this year? Real quick.
That's what you wait a minute. Hold on. That's what you brought him in here for? That's hilarious.
The Brooklyn Nets.
Yeah.
Brooklyn Nets. You don't see Milwaukee beating them?
No. You got too much firepower. It's one thing to have 3 stars, but they have 3 stars that are elite scorers. And in the playoffs this year, they've been playing defense when necessary, and I think that'll get the job done.
But they don't play defense though, right?
Well, during the season, they were awful defensively, but in the playoffs, it seems like they're getting stops when needed.
They playing a little bit, just enough.
Let me just say this before we get ready to wrap this up. We'll find out whether Harry knows what he's talking about, because at the end of the day, they're playing a team that has nobody, and even though they're my Celtics, they ain't got nobody. When they match up to the Milwaukee Bucks, we'll see if they play real defense and everything else, because then that'll be a better switch out. We'll see, and then we'll bring up Harry and say, Harry, either A, you was right, or we're gonna see, bro, you don't know basketball. We're gonna want one of the two things. You know what I mean? We're gonna do something. We're gonna let him have it, right? So, Rodney, go ahead, Harry. Go ahead.
The best defense is a great offense, and they have a great offense.
The best defense is a great offense applies in baseball.
No. When they can come down and apply pressure and get a bucket at will. See, it's so demoralizing when you're trying your best. You got your best defender. There's no way you can double Harden, Durant, or Kyrie for that matter. It becomes frustrating. It becomes a daunting task. There's no way.
Who's coming out the West real quick?
Man, you got to say Lakers as much as I hate to say it.
What? Okay, that's
as much as I hate to say it.
Who you gonna say, Frank? Who you gonna say?
What the Lakers are coming out of. Are you watching the games, Harry?
Who coming out? Phoenix?
Who's coming out?
It's going to either be Utah. It has to be Utah, and if it's not Utah, I would go with maybe Denver, but maybe that. But it definitely ain't the Lakers. The Lakers in the finals? No.
Are you losing your damn mind, Frank Holder?
Do you want to double with nothing, Rodney Perry? Lakers in the finals?
Frank is just being contrite.
You just give me my $20.
That's right. All right, y'all. That's the show. We gotta get it roll up out of here, man. I gotta thank Figs. I gotta thank Rodney Perry. I really gotta thank my man Harry. Good to see you, man. Good to see you,
Pleasure,
Harry.
man. Greetings from Budapest.
There you go. Oh man, there you go. There you go. Thank you to Amir for sitting in for talent. Y'all are watching the show. It's called The Box Seats. Of course, we all know how we do. The show's on every day, Monday through Friday, 1 to 2. It's on the channel called The Humor Mill. Thank y'all. We'll see y'all next week. We'll be back on Tuesday. Monday, we're taking off. We will be back Tuesday. Whole weekend NBA to talk about on Tuesday. We also got some guests coming up. Y'all make sure you check out the show. Thanks. Peace.
Oh, that was awesome.
Peace. Peace.